You get to choose a life with magic or a life without. I choose magic. Hey there, it's Deb D, your host of You Are the Magic, the show that is supporting you in connecting to that magic within you. Through storytelling, magic activations, solo episodes, and special guest speakers, we are going to explore the magical realm and how you can anchor into magical you in grounded, practical, let's make it real and a part of your everyday type of magic. My intention and hope is that by listening to the episodes, you will access this magic inside you so that each day and in every breath, you anchor into that truth. Because it is true, my friend, you are the magic. Hey there, Magic Maker. Here we are. It's episode 1 of a brand new season. Breathe it in now. We begin a whole new journey today. So we're at episode 1 of season 3 of the You Are the Magic podcast. And all season long, we are going to be inspired by the air element. Last season, we played in the land of Earth and what that can gift us and how we can work with the element for our magic making. And now, on the winds of change, we're shifting to the air element. And air, air is an amazing element to work with because air is going to say, it's time to change. Let's move. Air is all about change, communication, our magical mindset, intuition, and the story that you tell about yourself. So all season long, we're going to be playing in this narrative and in this magical play of the evolution of you, which is all about changing that story that you tell about yourself. That's one of the things I believe that air really does gift us as an element, because air is always on the move. It's showing us change is constant. It's happening all the time. Sometimes we're not even that aware of it, but it is happening. Change is happening. Communications are coming at us all the time. When we embrace the air element, we say yes to receiving all communications from self, the universe, our intuition, and we ease into allowing ourselves to change. Now, I do say allowing because I'm going to say it. One of the things that we have to talk about before we get into changing the story and getting all jiggy with the evolution of you is we got to talk about this resistance. Because it's so true. We resist what we seek. Damn. We really do. We do it. We all do it. Humans are exquisite. Like, I just think we're wonderful. I love to study humans. I remember this day, this is years ago, and I walked into the kitchen of a good friend of mine, Jen. We do some work together around storytelling, and on her fridge, there's a bit of paper with one sentence written on it with a magnet on the fridge, and it stopped me. What we resist will persist. And it felt like I'd just been shot by an arrow. Because I was like, that is so true. And I can see the areas of my life where I'm in resistance. And it's so funny. Again, humans are humorous. We want the thing and then we create a whole heap of resistance around it. And so the game begins. So for episode 1, we're going to work with the resistance from the giddy up. Because all season long, we're going to be working on how do we change this story about ourselves? How do we actually begin to open up our beautiful intuitively led life and evolve in our stories. Yes, this is the invitation. And let's get the resistance out of the way because it's there. Resistance is a part of change. Humans don't really like change, even though we seek it. And it needs to be dealt with, my friends. So we're going to do that right now. As shared in the teaser, if you caught that last week, I'm going to be focusing more on sharing stories. I love stories. And I want to share more stories as a way of kind of opening up the magical realm, because stories are magic in motion. And this is the invitation here, is to listen to the story as an invitation, and then also to hold your own story. What is this story inspiring in my story? But then here is where I really want you to focus, the space between the stories. Because the space between my story and your story is the space of universal truths, themes, lessons, the things that are going to make the difference in the days after you've heard the story. So as we're listening, we're kind of opening up this story realm so that my story or a future guest in another episode inspires in you that space in between the stories where there is so much magic to tap into. So let's play there now, my friends. It's story time. Strap in, take a big, deep breath as we launch into our air season. And we're looking it straight in the eye and saying, resistance, I see you. I am gripping the bottle as I am floating in the rivers of wine. I know this river well. I have been here for years. Sometimes I float. Sometimes I'm flailing about. Sometimes there's been some days where I thought maybe I might even drown. And there's absolutely been some times where I get out of the river and I'm sitting on the bank. But I have had a relationship with this river for years. For I have decided I am allowed and I need it. For my heart shattered and I am on a grief journey. And wine is my medicine. I am allowed and I need it. And so for years I float and move down the river. And I heart repair along the way. But there's one day where I arrive somewhere new. I'm no longer in the river of wine. I'm now standing at the shore of a lake. It's a large lake and it's bubbling away. It's got tinges of red on the surface and there's like heat. You can see the heat rising off this lake. And I recognize it because this lake actually lives in my belly. It's the lake of anger. I have arrived here and I am now officially not the grieving mother on a beautiful journey of heart repair. I am the woman gripping the bottle, standing on the shore of anger, and I'm now the angry drunk. Yep, that's me. It's many moons and years later, and I am in a new part of my story. I know I'm in a new part of my story because I can feel it in every part of me. But this story of gripping the bottle because I need it and I'm allowed, which really throughout my grief journey was actually all about I'm scared. That story is continuing and I've just arrived at a new place. I'm now at the lake of anger, and dressed complete as the angry drunk. Because you see, the new part of my story is I'm falling in love. I, as a moon witch, have met a werewolf and we are actively figuring out how does a moon witch and a werewolf fall in love and make a life. Now, I'll tell you, this is not an easy thing to do because we're very different characters in the magic realm, but we are in it. And I'm scared. I just put my heart back together and now I'm about to give it to a werewolf. I'm scared. And so I decide that I need the alcohol. I decide that I need to drink the next cold beer. I need it and I'm allowed. But what's underneath that? What's always been underneath that? I'm scared. And every time I would get scared and guzzle away at the beer, it would mix with the lake of anger in my belly and it would eventually erupt. And it was not pretty, not attractive at all. It was a woman in fear, spurting out a whole heap of, do I even believe that, anger, followed by the remorseful hangover the next day. This was the new repeated pattern. On one tender day, the werewolf asked me directly, I don't know why you do that. Why do you do that? He's looking at me with genuine curiosity. So it kind of softens me a little. And he says, Debra, I don't understand why you do that. Why do you do that to yourself? I see it. I see it in you. The first drink, the second drink, you're okay. And then by the third and the fourth drink, you change. You become a different person. And I know exactly what he's talking about because I can feel it. It's when the fear underneath mixes with the anger and the grief, and it comes out in ways that I don't want to own, that I don't want to be a part of me. And why am I doing that to myself? I'm doing it because I'm scared. And in that tender moment, the werewolf was able to break through all of the reasoning over years that I had been telling myself with why I'm allowed to have the next glass of wine or the next cold beer. It broke through all of that. And I saw a new pathway, not back to the river, not jumping into the lake, but a new pathway into a forest. And I was like, I'm going that way because it looks good. And I'm ready to explore something new for myself. And so I did. I ventured into the forest of sobriety. And I'll tell you, it is nice in there, my friends. Sure, that scared feeling that I had, it all comes up to the surface, but I was able to work with it on my journey through the forest. And you still feel the grief and I still felt anger, but I didn't feel like I was holding myself back anymore. I was allowed to fully feel. And that's what I did. And I was like, this is the way forward. Absolutely. And then I find myself on a plane. It's many, many, many moons later. I've been in the forest of sobriety for a while now. I think that's where I'm going to stay, but I'm on this plane, you see, and it's going directly towards my family. And I am going to be with my sister, Kathy, who is actively fighting for the last chapters of her life. For 10 years, she has been a warrior on a cancer journey. And we all know it. The journey's soon going to come to an end. On that first day of connecting with my family, one of my sisters pours a glass of wine and I say, I'll have one of those. Because I'm scared. I don't want to feel grief again. I don't want to say goodbye to my sister, Kathy. I'm not ready. And so I decide I'm allowed. I need it. And then that glass of wine leads, of course, to 2, 3, 4, and then it's months later. Kathy has passed. We have honoured her life. I am back in my life and I am still gripping the bottle. I am back there. I've gone all the way back to the river. And I know how I got here. I convinced myself that I was allowed, that I needed it, and I knew deep down that I was scared. So on another morning when I woke with that remorseful, regretful feeling, horrible in every cell feeling of a hangover, I chose the forever journey into the forest. And I could feel it land in my heart. It softened the anger in the belly, the river of feelings that run through me. They just kept running, but they kind of calmed also a little. And I knew that this was the way because I deserved it. And I was ready. I knew the way forward. And that's where I am now, in that forest, with a commitment forever in that forest. Because I know the feeling of the river and the bubbling lake. I know the feeling of not actually allowing myself to heal, not expressing myself in healthy ways. And I say, no, I'm not going that way. I finally put the bottle down. So very obviously, my friends, that's a story about my journey into my forever sobriety. So the thing to know about my sobriety is I've been playing with that thing for years. Even before Sage passed, I knew Spirit was telling me, like, you got to put the wine down. If you actually want to work with your intuition, I heard it, but I was in fear that if I did that, how would I socialize with my friends? How would I relax after a busy day at work and then the stresses of being a single mother? I just couldn't grab what was there. So I didn't even really try. But then in the moments when I was trying, what I found was a whole heap of resistance, because for years I knew this was the way forward. So for you now, let's just take a breath together. I just shared a story about my sobriety and how I knew it was the right thing and how the story changed and I didn't put the bottle down. So for you, what are you trying to change? And maybe it's recent, or maybe it's like me. It's something that you've been working on for years. Something that is a part of your story that is actually going to change the story if you can change this part. You got it? Breathe it in and smile, and then just say, here we are. We're not going to make any kind of bigger story about whether we're right or wrong about it. We're just living our beautiful lives. But within that, let's look at now all of this resistance that we create. So if we look at my story, what did I do? I convinced myself. So your mind is going to be excellent at telling you the story that supports not changing anything. Because when we change, we need to alter a whole heap of things, and our ego mind says, no, I don't want that. I want to maintain control. I want everything to stay exactly as it has been. We don't like change, but change is constant. So we tend to build a whole heap of resistance around it. We create stories around our change. We start to justify why we don't need to change or why it's not the right time to change. Maybe I'll just wait for this. And what we're actually doing is we're feeding that resistance with the feeling that is in the underbelly. So in my story, note, whether I was in the river of wine or at the lake of anger, drinking a cold beer, What was underneath all of that is the feeling of, I'm scared. I was scared in my early grief journey. I was scared falling in love with the werewolf. I was scared going to my sister's funeral and accepting that a whole new grief journey is opening up for me. Scared, scared, scared. And that feeling was fed into my resistance. I'm scared, therefore, let me just have another drink now, just this one weekend, and I'll change later when I'm not so scared. Doesn't work that way. When we build this resistance, what we seek to do is to smash the resistance down, to lower it. What I'm going to suggest now is maybe something different that you haven't tried before. Rather than going straight at the resistance, which for me was put the bottle down, don't have the third drink, right? If you're going to do that, what we're doing is we're staying in relationship with the resistance, and it gets fed and it likes it. And what we resist, we persist. It will persist. It will keep turning up and blocking your story and your evolution. So instead of that action or that thing or that thought pattern, I'm going to invite you to breathe in deep. What's underneath that? What feeling is underneath that? Because it's the feeling that's underneath that that is going to lower the resistance when we can sit with that. When I actually acknowledge I am really scared, I'm scared of all of this. When I gave myself those moments where I could relax and surrender into, sure, as a woman, I'm pretty amazing. I can do a lot of stuff. But at the moment, I'm scared. I don't have to be the woman who's pulling it off right now. I can be the woman who doesn't know the next step, or feels like my heart's about to implode. I'm scared. And what we do is we create a relationship with that feeling, because all of our emotions are energy in motion, emotion. And all of our emotions want to be on the move, just like air, just like change. It's a part of why people will say, feel your feelings. The only way is through. This is all of that's related. But we want to find what is that feeling and just be with it. I allowed myself to be scared. I allowed myself to be scared of opening my heart to a new grief journey. I allowed myself to be scared of the anger that I feel sometimes in certain relationships in my life. I allowed myself to be scared about what is this going to mean for me in terms of my friendships and my social life. I was scared of all of these things. But I allowed the feeling to follow me rather than feed the resistance. So this is what we want to do as we begin this journey, because we do resist the thing that we want. We create this resistance. And because you created it, you could also destroy it. Because this is the thing about change. Change is constant creation. Your life is constant creation. You are constantly creating and manifesting. And so the invitation is, where are you going to put your focus? What's the feeling in the underbelly of the resistance? Another example might be something like, I promised myself that I am going to eat clean food and move my body every day because I have a health goal. And then we do that for a couple of days and it works really well. And then on maybe day 4, day 5, maybe there's a chocolate bar, or we don't go for the walk that day. And we put the focus on the fact that we didn't do the thing, rather than what's underneath that. What happened on day 4 or day 5? Did you lose your confidence? Did you start to believe that maybe it's not going to happen for you? Rather than give yourself a hard time about the fact that you didn't go for the walk that day, or you ate the chocolate bar, or you picked up the bottle again, what's underneath that? Because if you can find the feeling that's underneath that, then just like be with that energy in motion, the emotion of it, it will change you. It will change the resistance. And you don't have to try so hard to go for that walk the next day. Because the thing about resistance is we then become resistant about the resistance, and then everything feels like it's getting harder and our manifestations get further away. We want to soften it in the underbelly, go to the emotion, go to the feeling and release it, because maybe like me, you're just a little scared. And that's okay. Humans get scared all the time and we still survive. Air is inviting you into the evolution of you. And this episode is inviting you into the evolution of you. Will you lower your resistance? Will you just breathe a little deeper into that underbelly to find what's there? Because we want to, with our magical mind, let ourselves know it's okay, you can let that go. Because when I walked into the forest of sobriety, I was still scared. I did it scared. And then all these amazing things happened, which is more of the stories I'm telling later in the season. But before we can evolve, before we can change, we have to lower this resistance, or else it's just too hard. And that's why people will say, oh, I tried that thing and it didn't work. I worked towards manifestation and I did my things, all the things the book told me to do for weeks in a row and nothing changed. That's actually a symptom of resistance. Find it, love it up, and then let it go. That's what we're going to do with our resistance. Because beyond resistance is where things can begin to change. And I want this for you, and I want this for me, and I want this for all of us, because we get to create our own lives. That's what Big Life Magic is all about. You are the magic and you're creating your world, which means you can create the story that you tell about yourself. All of that is coming up this season. So a couple of things to tell you as we wrap up this first episode. If you are here with me live or catching it within the next week, so today is the 17th of April. So from the 17th of April to the 24th of April, there is some extra special magic. It's literally just got released today. Inside Big Life Magic, actually the beating heart of Big Life Magic, is the virtual community, the Big Life Magic Makers. It's a community of women who are all saying, yeah, I want that. I want a freaking magical life. Let's turn up. Let's do this thing. And the connection and the community, it really is amazing. And so for the next week, we have 3 magic events, which are amazing. And I'm opening the doors for the next week only for a 30-day free trial. So you can jump in and capture and harness all of this energy of this next week, because we have a lot of energy. We've just finished an eclipse season, so that's all still playing out. And on Sunday, April 21st, Jupiter and Uranus form a conjunction in the sign of Taurus. It is like the peak day of the year for abundance, calling it in. We're doing a special circle in the Big Life Magic Makers. And also this week, tomorrow, which is Thursday the 18th, Tosca Di Matteo, who is an expert in making friends with yourself, best friends with your mind, is coming to talk and share and invite us to engage with the truth of our inner critic. And then next Tuesday, Sonia, a community member, is going to be holding us for our full moon community connection. So all of that's coming up in the next 7 days, and it's amazing high energy. And for the next 7 days, you can jump into the Big Life Magic Makers for a 30-day free trial. If I was you, I would be saying yes to that. So look out for all of the links. It's all there for you. Coming up next week for episode 2 of You Are the Magic in our air season, The Evolution of You, Tosca Di Matteo is going to be here with us, and we are going to be talking about that, the magical mindset. And, same as resistance, we all have that inner critic. Even if the voice is small, it's there. So we're going to be blessed by a great conversation and storytelling by Tosca next week. But for now, let's just start to wrap up our magical moment together. And I'm going to do as I do, which is every episode of You Are the Magic is dedicated. And I am dedicating this episode, the episode about releasing resistance and accepting change and possibility. I'm going to dedicate this episode to the werewolf, to my werewolf, who now years later is with me as we figure out our interplay in the magic realm. My werewolf, who now is my husband, who is bringing my big life magic to life here on the island of Tobago. I dedicate this episode to you, my beloved, my werewolf. And I invite you now for yourself to just dedicate this moment for yourself to somebody who has been by your side through big changes. What a delight. I'm absolutely loving the feeling of season 3. Cannot wait to introduce you to Tosca next week. But for now, we're just going to get real jiggy with lowering that resistance. Because once you smash that down, the road opens up and you get to decide what you create next. So, breathe it in, know it to be true, because it is. It's you, my friend. You are the magic. Thank you for spending your time and your magic with me in the latest episode of You Are the Magic. I invite you now to click the link for ATTUNE. It's a 5-day intuition activation, which means over 5 days, you will receive an audio activation from me, which is going to support you in tuning your intuition, your magical insight, the magical language that lives within you and connects you to our divine, glorious universe. Because I believe it. If we are all connected to our intuition, then we're all in ease, fun, play in the magical realm, and that's where your big life magic lives. Other ways to stay connected to me and Big Life Magic is all available to you on the website, biglifemagic.com. There you'll find the links and information for the Big Life Magic Makers, our virtual community for women. You may choose to join the membership. We would be delighted to welcome you. Plus, there's more information about working one-on-one with me or joining a new moon circle, which is available every new moon, open to anyone across the globe who wishes to join us. There's so many ways that we can connect together and connect to your magic, and I invite you to say yes to that now. I'm also going to ask this. If this episode or this show has inspired you or changed anything in your world, I would deeply appreciate a review on the platform that you're watching or listening on. For I believe when we share and elevate each other, our magic expands. And this is what I wish for us all. So breathe it in now, my magical friend. Breathe it in and smile, for it's true. You, my friend, are the magic.